Okay, so I decided to redo this lecture on triglycerides because of how badly the video turned out. Just too much is hacked off, and so I decided to do it. Okay, so triglycerides. So a triglyceride is made out of glycerol and 3 fatty acids. There are 2 types of triglycerides, fats and there's oils. Fats are solid at room temperature, oils are liquids at room temperature. They both come from biological sources, like fats, animal fats, okay, like with the fat on your body. Then there are oils, and most oils are vegetable oils, which we'll talk about in a minute. First thing we're going to do is talk about how triglycerides are made, what's the chemical reaction, and you will have to know it. That's one of the reasons I want to redo this. And also how do they not only form, but how do they break apart? Because both of those reactions are important in terms of our biology. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, first of all, there's a glycerol molecule, which we talked about when we talked in the last material, where you take a glycerol molecule and you oxidize it and you get glyceraldehyde, which is our first carbohydrate. Okay, this is glyceraldehyde. I mean glycerol. Okay, it has an alcohol group on it. Okay, now this. So what happens is you take 3 fatty acids, and they can be the same or different. So add, and so you take the 3, so there's 3 fatty acids here. The fatty acids, I just drew a very small segments of them, and make sure this all gets in page. Okay. Okay. All right. So what's going to happen now is an esterification. So this is, which we talked about when we talked about esters. And what happens, it's like in esterifications, you have an alcohol plus a carboxylic acid. So this is a fatty acid. There's many carbons here. I just made little lines here. The water pops off here. This pops off, and it happens 3 times. Okay. So these guys pop off. And what they do is they form water. 3 waters. OH, OH, and OH. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. All right. Okay, the next thing that happens is the other 2 parts come together. So this carbon is going to attach to this carbon is going to attach to this, and this carbon is going to attach to that. And when you do that, triglyceride. Okay. We'll talk about where these are made in our body and so forth. Okay. Right. Again, this is arrow doesn't mean equal. It means it turns into. So one glycerol plus 3 fatty acids will make 1 triglyceride and 3 waters. Okay, now our bodies do this reaction. They make triglycerides. We eat fatty acids, and they get turned into triglycerides. Okay, now the reverse reaction happens as well. Okay, so the other reaction will happen is if you take triglyceride, you add it to 3 waters, what you will produce is glycerol and fatty acids, and this is called hydrolysis. Of triglyceride. Okay, so those are the 2 reactions. One going making is called esterification or formation of triglyceride, and the reverse reaction, which is important, is called the hydrolysis of a triglyceride. So you have to know this reaction. Okay. All right. Okay. Back to the PowerPoints. Okay, here's a diagram of it. Same thing. Here's your glycerol. This is your 3 fatty acids. The OH pops off, the H pops off. They form 3 waters. And then these 2 guys combine to form the triglyceride. The type of bond is called an ester bond. Okay, now the fatty acids that are found in triglycerides either can be of the same type, they can be all saturated, or they can be part of both, saturated and unsaturated. Okay. So the one on the left has different types of fatty acids. It has 2 saturated and 1 unsaturated, this double bond. These guys have all the same type, so you can have combinations of fatty acids and triglycerides. Okay, now why is that going to be important? Okay, so first of all, a fat is a triglyceride, which is a solid at room temperature, usually animal source like fat, body fat, lard, butter fat. And the reason why they are solids at room temperature is because they have lots of fatty, saturated fats, which have a higher melting point. Now we'll see a diagram of that. All right, oils on the other hand are triglycerides, which are liquid at room temperature. And usually they come from plant sources. Why they liquids is because they have a higher percentage of unsaturated fats. Okay, so here's a graph showing different types of triglycerides. The ones at the top are the top 3 are solids at room temperature. Room temperature is about 20 degrees Celsius. And the ones underneath that, olive, canola, soybean, and so forth, are liquids at room temperature, and you can tell by their melting point, okay? Which are below 20 degrees. If you notice the top three, they have a lot of blue in them, which are saturated, while the ones on the bottom have a lot less blue and more of the orange and yellowish orange, which are the unsaturated. So unsaturated have lower melting points because they don't tangle as well. Okay, so what is the function of triglycerides in our bodies? Well, why do we eat them? Why are they in our bodies and so forth? One of the things they do is they transfer fatty acids to our cells for energy. For instance, if your body is low on carbohydrates, it will use fatty acids as a method for energy. Another place is it'll if it doesn't need energy from fats, what it'll do is it'll transfer the fats to adipose tissue, where that's our fat tissue, our fat on our body, and store it as adipose tissue. And it'll store it as triglycerides. All right, to give an idea of what happens when we eat triglycerides. Okay, when you eat a triglyceride, which if you eat a hamburger or you're eating vegetable oil or whatever, it gets into your gut through your mouth, and it can eventually get into your blood. And once it gets to your blood, it will go to your cells. If your cells need it because it's run out of carbohydrates, and there's different reasons why it could run out of carbohydrates. Maybe you're on a keto diet, maybe you're starving, maybe you're at a really low energy level. Actually, if you're just sitting around doing hardly anything, you're burning more fat than you are carbohydrates. So if your body needs it, it will take the triglyceride and break it through hydrolysis into the glycerol 3 fatty acids, and the fatty acids will be turned into, may help make ATP, which is our energy source, using similar pathways, cellular respiration. Now, if there's some reason your body says, it gets here because I don't need any fats, what it'll do, which is most time the case for us, except if you're young, right, and active, is it'll send it to your adipose tissue where the triglycerides will be stored as triglycerides. Now, if there is a time where your body runs out of energy and you're not getting the energy from your liver or your muscles or whatever from carbohydrates, what will happen is that those triglycerides will be released from your adipose tissue, will go into the cells, and again broken through hydrolysis into fatty acids. Okay, and again, this is the hydrolysis where you take a triglyceride, you add water. You don't. This is what's found in our body. The lipases, which are enzymes, and you don't have to worry about these two guys. But it breaks it into glycerol and fatty acids, and these guys can be used as energy. And if you look at this as a reverse reaction of esterification or making of triglyceride, where you take glycerol plus 3 of these, make this and 3 waters. Okay. Right, there's a couple of reactions which relate to fatty acids, triglycerides, hydrogenation, and saponification. We'll leave saponification for the next lecture. Let's talk a little bit about hydrogenation. Okay. All right, we talked about this before. And when we talk about alkenes, if you take an alkene, which has a double bond, and you add hydrogen to it, it's called hydrogenation, and you get rid of the double bond, and you end up having all single bonds. So what you do is you go from an unsaturated hydrocarbon, alkene, to a saturated hydrocarbon called alkane. But a similar thing can be done with our fatty acids. If you have an unsaturated fatty acid, which has at least one double bond in it, it can undergo hydrogenation and have it turned into a saturated fatty acid. So you can take a double bond and make fatty acid with double bonds in it, and you can reduce or get rid of all the double bonds by having it undergo this process called hydrogenation. This process is an industrial process that food plants use, food processors use, particularly like if you want to make vegetable shortening. Vegetable shortening is made out of vegetable oil, which is a liquid. And you take that, and the reason why it's a liquid is because it has double bonds in it. And what they do is they do an industrial process of hydrogenation, which removes some of those double bonds. And when it does that, it basically turns it into a fatty acid. Into a fat, which is a solid at room temperature. So you can turn vegetable oil into being kind of like a vegetable fat by undergoing this process. Our bodies don't do this that I know of, but this is this is only done commercially to make, basically replace wherever animal fats are used in making foods, like lard and so forth, replacing those with vegetable shortening. And that's all for this one. And we'll talk, and soaps will be on the next video.